1422 November 26, 1944. The altimeter reads 12,000 feet. The air is thin, the cold a physical presence that seeps through the fleece-lined jackets. Below, the Hürtgen forest is a jagged, snow-dusted scar. This is Death's Factory, a place where entire divisions are disappearing into the mud and trees. For Second Lieutenant Robert Bob Morris, call sign Rider 3, the forest is just a landmark. He is 22 years old, flying a Republic P-47D Thunderbolt, a 7-ton fighter plane that pilots call the Jug. His unit, the 78th Fighter Group, is on a sweep. His mission is to hunt, to find anything that moves for the Wehrmacht. But the sky is empty. The bombers he was meant to protect have already turned for home. All that remains is the vibration of the Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine and the immense crushing solitude of enemy airspace. He scans the broken clouds, a habit drilled into him by instructors who are now mostly dead. His eyes are raw, then he sees it. Not a plane, but a flicker, a glint of sunlight on a distant canopy moving fast, low to the deck. He keys his radio. Rider 3 to flight. Tally-ho. Bandits at 5 o'clock low. Looks like a pair. I'm going in. He rolls the heavy P-47 onto its left wing, the nose dropping, the engine whining as he pushes the throttle forward. The contrast is stark. The lumbering, powerful American machine, built for endurance and brute force, diving on the lighter, more agile German prey. The ground rushes up. The hunt is on. The object of his attention is a Focke-Wulf 190, the butcher bird. It's one of the best fighters the Luftwaffe has, but this one is caught unawares. The dogfight is not a graceful ballet. It is a three-dimensional fistfight. Morris chases the FW-190 through a valley, the German pilot pulling hard, trying to use the terrain to shake him. Morris is patient. He knows his plane. It's not a turner, it's a diver. He stays above, waits for the German to make a mistake. The mistake comes. The FW-190 pulls up, trying to loop, losing energy. Morris follows his gun sight, a simple illuminated circle on a glass plate, drifts over the black cross on the 190's fuselage. He doesn't think. He acts. He squeezes the trigger on his control stick. The P-47 shudders as all 8 of its 50 caliber machine guns erupt. The sound is not a bang, but a deafening metallic tearing, like a giant canvas being ripped. A stream of tracers, bright against the grey sky, slams into the FW-190's engine. The German plane falters. It doesn't explode. It simply gives up. Thick black smoke pours from its cowling. The propeller slows, windmilling. The German pilot doesn't bail out. He's either wounded or trying to save his aircraft. He's heading for a long, snow-covered field, a farmer's pasture. Morris circles, his adrenaline fading, replaced by a cold sense of professionalism. Rider 3, target neutralized. I'm watching him down. The FW-190 hits the ground. It's a perfect belly landing. The plane skids for 200 yards, churning up a massive wave of mud and snow before coming to a stop near a stone wall. It's over. Morris should climb, rejoin his wingman and go home. But he doesn't. He circles once, low. The canopy on the FW-190 is still closed, and then he sees it. A small orange tongue of fire, licking at the wing root where the fuel tank is. The plane is going to explode, and the pilot is still inside. Morris watches, mesmerized. He sees the pilot, a dark shape, struggling inside the cockpit. He's pushing on the canopy, but it seems to be jammed. He's trapped. Rider 3, form up! His wingman's voice crackles, distant. Let's go home. Morris keeps circling. He's now just 500 feet above the field. He can see the pilot clearly, hammering on the glass with his fists. The smoke is no longer black. It's thick and white as the plane's internal fluids cook. The fire is growing. This is 1944. The war is not a game of chivalry. It is a brutal, industrial process of attrition. An after-action report from the 8th Air Force, dated just 1 week prior, November 20th, is cold in its assessment. Pilot losses continue to be the primary limiting factor in air operations. Engagement rules are clear. Identify, destroy, and return. Deviation from mission parameters is not authorized. The unspoken code of the air is simple. You win the fight. You climb for home. You do not intervene. Intervention is suicide. A P-47 Thunderbolt is a high-performance fighter, not a bush plane. Its landing speed specifications are precise based on prepared airstrips. The P-47D model requires a minimum of 200 feet of hard clear runway to land safely. Its narrow track landing gear is notoriously unforgiving on soft or uneven ground. A wet, muddy field in Germany is not a runway. It is a tomb, a guaranteed nose-over that will trap the rescuer alongside the vanquished. A memo from the War Department's Bureau of Aeronautics is even more blunt. Any attempted landing on unprepared surfaces by high-performance fighter aircraft is to be considered an act of willful destruction of government property. The data is clear. The rules are clear. Landing is not just forbidden, it is impossible. The statistics translate to men. They are not just numbers, they are the empty bunks in the barracks at RAF Lakenheath. They are the faces that disappear from the mess hall. A flight surgeon's report on pilot stress within the 78th Fighter Group notes a common anxiety. The primary psychological stressor reported by pilots is not the fear of combat itself, but the fear of fire. The recurring nightmare is not of being shot, but of being trapped in a burning aircraft, unable to escape. For Bob Morris, circling at 500 feet, this is no longer a strategic equation. The abstract enemy has vanished. The fascist is gone. Down there in that smoking cockpit is a pilot, a man facing the one death that all pilots fear most. His wingman's voice crackles again, full of static and confusion. "Rider 3, what is your status? You're orbiting. Form up." I say again, form up. Morris looks at the fire. It's now reaching the cockpit. He sees the German pilot slump, giving up, likely overcome by the smoke. He just can't watch. The experts, the engineers, the colonels all agreed it couldn't be done. It was a violation of physics, of tactics, and of common sense. Bob Morris was 22 years old. He had been a forestry student at Oregon State before the war. His specialty was not combat, but classification. He'd learned to fly a tiny Piper Cub to spot forest fires in the Cascade Mountains. His father, a doctor in Bend, Oregon, had raised him with a stubborn, quiet moral code. You help the man who is hurt. It doesn't matter who he is. You help. His war diary, just a small leather book he kept in his footlocker, held an entry from the previous month. We flew over Cologne. The flak was bad, but we got the bombers home. I never see the faces. They are just black crosses in my gun sight or black puffs of flak in the sky. I wonder if they also have a mother waiting for a letter. I wonder if this war has burned the humanity out of all of us. Now that question is no longer philosophical. It is 500 feet below him and it is on fire. He is a man defined by a quiet, stubborn empathy, and he is now trapped at 500 feet by a moral crisis. The war has presented him with a problem that his 50 caliber machine guns cannot solve. He keys his microphone. His voice is calm. Rider 4, this is Rider 3. I'm going down. I'm landing. A burst of static. His wingman's voice is high, incredulous. Say again, Rider 3. You're what? I'm landing. That pilot is still alive. Morris, are you insane? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. The field is a swamp. You'll flip, and it's probably crawling with Wehrmacht. He's stuck. It's a ghost, Morris, a trap, a trick. Get out of there. That's an order. But his wingman is not an officer. He can't give an order. And Morris is already on his downwind leg. He has made the choice. The crazy idea is now an action. He will not let a man burn to death, even if that man tried to kill him 2 minutes ago. He begins his landing checklist. Mixture, prop, flaps. He is acting alone. This is the test. Not in a lab, not on a proving ground, but here now with a man's life on the line. His preparation is not weeks of engineering, but a 30-second improvised maneuver. He is not building a prototype, he is becoming one. He scans the field. It's soft but long. He sees a slightly elevated patch near that stone wall. The FW-190 is burning 100 yards beyond it. He has to land short, with no engine power, and stop before he hits the wreckage himself. He drops his landing gear. The green light in the cockpit confirms they are down and locked. He lowers his flaps to full 40 degrees. This will create immense drag, allowing him to come in slow, but it also makes the plane unstable. He cuts the throttle, bringing the 2000 horsepower engine to an idle. The P-47, a plane designed to dive at 500 miles per hour, is now a 7-ton glider, floating just above its stall speed of 90 mph. The only sound is the shriek of the wind over the canopy and the frantic shouting of his wingman. "Morris, you crazy bastard! Pull up! Pull up!" He ignores him. He is focused. The field rushes up. He is too fast. A gust of crosswind hits him, pushing him sideways. It's wrong. He's going to botch it. "Abort! Abort!" his wingman screams. Morris slams the throttle forward. The R-2800 engine catches, bellows in protest, and drags the heavy plane back into the sky. He climbs to 400 feet, his heart hammering. The FW-190 is now a column of black fire. He has seconds. Literally. He comes around again. No mistakes this time. He's slower, he's hanging on the propeller, the plane shuddering on the very edge of a stall. He doesn't aim for the field. He aims for the patch of ground 50 feet in front of it. The wheels touch. They do not roll, they dig. A wall of mud, snow and grass flies up, instantly coating his windshield. He is blind. The P-47 lurches, the tail flying up, threatening to nose over. Morris slams his feet on the rudder pedals, fighting the skid, feeling the plane try to swap ends. The tailwheel slams down with a crash that rattles his teeth. He is on the ground, he is alive, he is stopped, 50 yards from the burning Focke-Wulf. He has landed a P-47 on a 700-foot patch of German mud. He doesn't pause to celebrate. He chops the engine, the prop spinning to a halt. He unbuckles his harness, grabs his .45 caliber sidearm, and kicks the canopy open, rolling onto the wing and dropping into the cold, smoky air. If stories like this fascinate you, stay with us. The next chapter of wartime innovation might surprise you. The debriefing room at RAF Lakenheath is thick with cigarette smoke and silence. The group commander, Colonel Harding, is stone-faced, holding a single piece of paper, Morris's after-action report. "Lieutenant," Harding's voice is flat, "your report, it's fiction." "Sir, it's the truth. My wingman, Lieutenant Davis, saw the whole thing. He's filed his report." Harding glances at the second report. "Davis's report confirms you lost your mind. You landed your aircraft, an $8 million government asset in enemy territory. To do what? Save a Nazi?" "Sir, I saved a pilot. You exposed yourself to capture. You exposed your wingman, who was forced to circle you, low on fuel, over a hot zone. You broke every rule of engagement we have. You broke the laws of physics, for God's sake." Morris stands at attention. He is still covered in mud and a faint smell of smoke. "Sir, with respect, we're told we're fighting for something. If that something doesn't include saving a man from burning to death, even if he's the enemy, then I'm not sure what it is." The room is silent. The operations officers are looking at their desks. Harding stares at Morris as if trying to dissect him. He picks up a pen, scribbles on the report. "Grounded pending a full review. Get out of my sight, Lieutenant. The real test of this crazy idea is not in the field but in the command. The review comes fast, but not from Harding. It comes from the Third Army. The German pilot, an Oberleutnant named Franz Haubner, is in a POW hospital. He is alive, with 2 broken ribs and severe burns to his hands, but alive. Morris had ripped the jammed canopy off its rails, cutting his own hands, and dragged the semi-conscious, burning German from the cockpit, just seconds before the main fuel tank erupted, blowing the FW-190 into 1,000 pieces. He had thrown the German man over his shoulder and was halfway back to his P-47 when the first Wehrmacht patrol, alerted by the crash, appeared at the edge of the woods. He'd fired his .45 into the air, jumped into his cockpit, and performed a full-throttle mudslinging takeoff, his wingman strafing the tree line to keep the German soldiers' heads down. Haubner's testimony, given to an army intelligence officer, confirms every detail. The news spreads. Not in the stars and stripes, but in the barracks, in the mess halls, in the briefing rooms. It becomes a legend. The 78th Fighter Group, once just another unit, is now the unit with that guy. The guy who landed in hell to pull out an enemy. The real test is the effect on morale. It lifts. The pilots walk taller. They are not just hunters, they are knights. Morris is quietly reinstated after 3 days. Colonel Harding calls him into his office. There is no apology. But the colonel pushes a box of cigars across the desk. Don't, ever, do that again, Lieutenant, but well done. The event is buried in unit reports. It is not a tactic. It is not repeatable. It is an anomaly, a statistical outlier in a war defined by its brutal averages. But it becomes a legend. It is a story told at VFW halls in the 1950s, at reunions for the 78th Fighter Group in the 1970s. Robert Morris finishes his combat tour, flying 60 missions. He is awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, but the citation speaks only of destroying an enemy aircraft and returning safely to base under hazardous conditions. The landing is not mentioned. He goes home to Oregon. He becomes a forester as planned. He marries, has children. He never talks about the war except to his son once when asked if he ever killed anyone. War isn't about killing, he says. It's about surviving and helping others survive if you can. The German pilot, Franz Haubner, survives the war in a POW camp in Mississippi. He returns to a divided Germany, becomes a schoolteacher. In 1955, after a decade of searching through Red Cross archives, he finds an address for a Robert Morris in Oregon. He writes one letter. I do not know if you will remember me. You were the American, I was the German. You taught me what humanity was in a place that had none. I have told my children this story, so they know that even in the deepest darkness, there is light. The legacy isn't a new piece of technology. It's not a new tactic. It's a single, verifiable data point that even in total war, decency was not extinct. We look to war for innovations in steel, in radar, in jet engines, in the massive P-47 itself. But perhaps the most powerful innovations are not technological, but moral. The prototype in this story is not a machine. It is an act of courage that defies programming. The test is not on a firing range, but a spontaneous life or death choice. Today we talk of autonomous weapons, of drone warfare, of conflicts waged from 30,000 feet by operators thousands of miles away. We are more disconnected from the enemy than ever, reducing them once again to a black cross in a gun sight. We need the lesson of Robert Morris, the lesson that the most profound act of defiance in war is not to kill but to see the human being inside the machine. The muddy field in Germany is now just a field, indistinguishable from any other. But it remains a silent witness to one impossible landing, and to an idea that for a few moments defeated a war. Every great idea begins as an act of defiance against impossibility. What impossible ideas do you think could change the world?